Where's time?
I'm on the same page.
Time's up there.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. Hi there. My name is Mitchell Opatowski. I'm a sophomore majoring in international affairs and geography.
Hi guys, my name is Blake Richardson, and I'm majoring in economics and international affairs and computer science. We'll see how all that goes. Servify, what does it do? So Servify seeks to maximize nonprofits' ability to interact with their volunteers by retaining them and managing volunteer events, and this will help reduce their costly administrative burdens.
Right. So currently we're a prototype in development. We're going to launch a mobile application and a partner web app. And we're also going to have a projected launch in June, and we've done 65 customer interviews so far. I want you to imagine that you're a nonprofit coordinator, Barbara Willie, who works with Charlie's Place. It's a nonprofit that serves the homeless populations in DC. Monday through Saturday, they serve food to the homeless. They have a staff of 4 part-time staff, and they have a bunch of new volunteers coming in, youth groups, government groups, businesses, and they have a lot of shifts going on. They have volunteers go out and get groceries. They have volunteers performing hair services. They have a lot of problems for their small staff. So they need an easy way for volunteers to remotely pick up groceries, to sign individuals up for multiple shifts, and to spend less time training each of these new groups. So we wanted to see if this was a problem that was recurrent throughout the nonprofit world. We went out and interviewed 65 other nonprofits, some small, some very large. You'll notice the National Park Service and Habitat for Humanity, but we also went out and interviewed someone as small as Friends in Noyes Park.
So some of the key takeaways. First, we discovered there's a lack of simple communications at nonprofits. They have a hard time connecting to volunteers, and most of their communications are done through emails. We're going to simplify that by making most of their communications an in-app communication on our platform. Second, they have very poor outreach. Most nonprofits interact only with people in their local community. We want to make their impact larger. We're going to do this by creating a proprietary search algorithm that matches nonprofits and volunteers using both of their interests and people that would actually be likely to come to their events. Third, they have very poor retention. It's very difficult for volunteers to go and volunteer at an event that they had already gone and signed up to. They don't have contacts to the coordinators that work there, or they just don't know how they would get involved again. So we're going to help do this by social media integration. So what that means is that nonprofits can post out their events on our platform, and then it will go to all the different social platforms that they currently use. Long orientation times. It takes 30, 40 minutes sometimes to get trained for a volunteer event before you actually get to start making an impact. That's a huge problem. Those 40 minutes multiplied by the number of people that volunteer in a year, that's a massive problem. We want to allow nonprofits to sign up and put documents onto our system that the volunteers can then read prior to events so they can get trained and go immediately make an impact once they actually go out to their community. Last, manual hour verification. This is a big deal for nonprofits because they use their hour verification to determine grants that they might get and how they'll continue running their business. We can solve this by allowing volunteers to check in on a mobile app, and then that hours that they already spent is automatically put into our system, and then nonprofits can then see how many hours they've had in volunteer events. So our solution, like we said, an all-in-one web platform and mobile app that allows these nonprofits to manage their volunteer events and bring in volunteers and collect all their data they need. So what does this do for them? It saves them time, it's going to save them money, and it's going to increase their outreach through the social venues that we talked about.
Right. So we wanted to get a bigger picture of what this was like. Last year, there were 950,000 public charities registered in the United States. There are 62.7 million volunteers. That's a quarter of the United States population volunteering every year, serving a total 8.7 billion hours, valued at $179.2 billion. But the kicker, 1.13 billion hours were spent on training, orientation, or just waiting at the nonprofit events. So we want to enter this market. We will partner with about 10 key nonprofit partners. We will get them to use the software and integrate their current volunteers. We will work with these nonprofits to fulfill their needs. And lastly, we will measure the results.
So here's what our landing page currently looks like of our website. We're trying to make it exceptionally simple for volunteers and nonprofits to know what they're trying to do. Very simply, you get started as a volunteer in a nonprofit, and then it automatically links you to different social accounts that you can log into. So say your Facebook, you'll have all your Facebook events automatically in Servify. This is currently what the nonprofit coordinator dashboard looks like. We're trying to make it exceptionally simple for them to see one event and manage that event as the first thing they see when they sign into our system, trying to make it exceptionally user-friendly. And then here's what a volunteer event looks like when you're signing in on the volunteer page. You have very simple where you're going, signing up, and visiting that nonprofit.
Right. So our subscription fees and our subscription types for nonprofits are strategic. First, we have a strong free version. This was recommended to us by an owner of a nonprofit. This membership type is ideal for very small nonprofit teams, but it adds to the network effect. More volunteers in our system, the more valuable it is for other nonprofits to draw from that pool of volunteers. Our next is Team. This is ideal for Charlie's Place, but it's also ideal for Thrive DC. These are nonprofits that operate at a single location and have under 100 volunteers per week. Lastly, there's Professional. Professional is ideal for nonprofits with multiple locations. These are large chains, your Habitat for Humanity, for example. And this is ideal for over 100 volunteers per week.
So you might be wondering why we chose those specific prices. We did industry research and determined that one of the key problems that current software solutions have is that they're overpricing their software. They don't understand that nonprofits don't have a lot of money. But what they also fail to realize is that there's lots of them. So as we talked about, the network effect is key for this. If we can start getting these signed on, we can collect their data as well as starting to get the network effect of more volunteers and more nonprofits onto our system. So here's our key revenue streams. First, as we'd already talked about, this main revenue model is subscriptions. But beyond that, we're going to integrate in a donation platform that allows for volunteers to donate to nonprofits, and then as an incentive for those nonprofits to sign up, we'll either let them claim them for free if they pay for our accounts, but if they don't pay for our account, we'll take a 5% service fee from that. Then, in addition, we're going to be collecting a lot of proprietary data on both nonprofits and volunteers that can be used for targeted marketing and a lot of other different applications that will be very valuable for them.
Right, so we decided to make a matrix of our competition. So in this corner, you will see the common solutions. These are single sign-up options. And you can even tell that Sign-Up Genius is just a sign-up software. This doesn't follow the volunteer throughout the service. They sign up, they'll forget the software a day afterwards. This doesn't help with recurring. There's a low return on investment for nonprofit coordinators to use these services, and they don't get very many new volunteers. Next, there's GivePulse. GivePulse has created a system which is good for nonprofit coordinators. However, they fall into the same flaw that Blake was just describing with their pricing strategy. They're pricing their software way too high, and because of that, they have not created a network of volunteers that's very widespread. They're only available in Austin currently. Lastly, we have Volunteer Match. This is the iconic first Google search that you'll see. Has a lot of volunteers, but again, this falls in the same problems as these softwares. They just get you to the event. They don't follow you afterwards. We're trying to solve that. This leaves a huge opening for ourselves, get a lot of volunteers, make it really easy for nonprofit coordinators. You have a great software. So we have a 4-part growth strategy. First, we'll be marketing to the networks nonprofits already use and look to make technology decisions. These include multiple magazines, newspapers, reviews by other nonprofits. Second, we'll be targeting corporations to sponsor the subscription fees for nonprofits to make it easier for nonprofits to sign up to our service. Third, nonprofits can claim the donations made to our service by volunteers. Fourth, we will personally be attending nonprofit conferences and giving away our software at the click of a button to these nonprofits.
So what does our income projection look like? Currently, in Q2 of 2017, we're still at a loss because we've incorporated our business, we've trademarked our logo and our name, and we've incurred different costs for starting the business. By this summer in Q3, we plan to launch, like we said, in June, and partner with 10 to 15 nonprofits. We're going to make that a paid partnership program. And so that will then put us close to even because we've had very low initial expenses. By Q3 of next year, we plan to have 70. So we're again trying to go for a lot of nonprofits at the free to middle model and try to then enhance their ability to grow and thus enhance our ability to work with them. By 2019, we plan to expand maybe beyond DC, and that will give us around 195 nonprofits.
Right, so we have 3 parts to our vision. First, we're creating the foundation of volunteer signups to a nonprofits event and returns to that nonprofit. Second, our second phase includes reaching out to academic institutions. GW itself is looking for a replacement to Noble Hour because it hasn't provided the adequate solutions. But we will also be creating a donation platform for public foundations to sponsor nonprofits. Third, we'll be creating a corporate social responsibility platform. There currently isn't a platform for group volunteering. You may only volunteer once a semester or once a year at your company. And that also includes a volunteer loyalty program and a grant matching program for small nonprofits.
This might sound overly ambitious, but very simply, this is just adding an account type, and then that's adding another 4th account type. So there could be an account type for universities, another account type for corporations. It's not changing our whole system, it's just adding them on to what we're already building. Then the team.
So, I'm Mitchell. I'm in charge of customer relation management. I bring the nonprofit experience onto the team.
I'm Blake. I handle a lot of the development as well as designing the product with our primary developer, which is Daniel Gay. He's had 15 years of paid professional experience, and we're really lucky to have him. Then Ben Yaxall, he brings finance and legal. He's worked at a bank, Veritex Bank, and works currently at the GW Law School. And he's in China right now, so he couldn't make it.
So, this is kind of what our seed funding looks like. Ideally, we'd like an investment of $30,000. Now, you can tell that most of this money is going towards marketing and graphic design. This is because the more money we spend on marketing, the faster growth we'll get, and that will create a network effect, which makes our software extremely valuable and will encourage nonprofits to jump on.
So you might be wondering, where is the actual AWS, Amazon Web Services cost to host our system? So that 4th partner we mentioned, Daniel Gay, actually handles all of that for us. Part of our equity agreement, he takes some of the company because he's the 4th partner, and he actually is agreeing to incur all capital costs there without any cost to us. And thank you. That's our presentation. Sure.
I love this, and I think there's a ton of partnership opportunities for you. I know Aspen has they changed the name, but it's around service and General McChrystal and all this stuff. I think it's really great. I was wondering, I think that it may not be where you want to go, but I feel like there could also be kind of a political angle here. In terms of thinking about how do you onboard volunteers for campaigning and manage them and train them. And I know, you know, in this particular election cycle, whether it was the right or the left, both had problems operationalizing where to send volunteers and having to train them 1,000 times a day, and where do you pick up your materials. So I also encourage you, if you would be interested, to kind of branch out. Yeah, you can pay me if that one goes well. So I'm curious as well, it seems like a lot of money for marketing, and so where exactly do you intend to spend that, and how will you measure your ROI from that?
So one of the key aspects of the network effect is getting us in front of as many volunteers as possible. And so probably what we're going to start as is very simple, like Facebook and Twitter marketing to the people that are already followers or friends of nonprofits. So that it's going to be a lot of targeted marketing towards them, because we need more volunteers. Because as we get more volunteers on, we're going to have a larger, it's going to be more valuable for nonprofits to sign up, because they're going to have lots of volunteers already on their system. Additionally, we're going to need a lot for making videos and graphic design and all that to make our system look attractive for both people to come on, because people are very visual.
Right. So basically, we would like to go after the Dropbox design, where they made this great introductory video to how this software worked, and everyone jumped on. That's kind of what we would like to shoot for.
I got a question for you guys. So I volunteer a lot, so I can sympathize with the 5 people that have to do lots of stuff. Do you guys volunteer?
Yes,
Yes.
we do.
You guys do? Okay, cool. So I think what I struggle to understand is what the app does, right? So the pain point of 5 people is that they have to do everything. So if you can go back to the slide, which is the feature matrix, and you had virtual training materials, and keep going back.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So
let me just finish my thought, which is you're still relying. So in essence, what the app actually does is actually create more friction, because 80% of any average user's time is 5 apps. And so to have the user go download an app for the one, for most of my friends, I try to get one new person to do volunteering work a year. And it's like a pain. Like, they ask all the questions in the world, like, what do I do? Where do I go? What am I supposed to wear? Am I going to be sweaty? So this is a lot of work that's required, for the consumer to download an app to get started for that one kind of work that they do. But secondly, things like virtual training materials, is that in the hands of the nonprofit? And this is the root of my question, which is, what does the app do? If it's enabling virtual training materials because you have templates and it makes it easy for 5 people to create that stuff, that's great. But you're taking 5 people that are very analog in nonprofits and now forcing them to go very digital, which seems like a big hurdle in a lot of ways. So what does the app do, kind of, is the core question. How does that...
I want to piggyback on how long it takes. What's the onboarding process length time?
So I can describe that. So we've already implemented the system, Facebook integration with your events. So what you do is, if you're a nonprofit and you're worried about all this, the difficulty of signing up and getting your events out there, currently, like you said, they already use things like Facebook to manage their events. So what we're going to do is allow you to search your group, put in your social login, and we'll automatically import all of your current volunteer events that you manage. So what makes this valuable is then, once you have this event, which has no management outreach, we're going to start allowing you to communicate easily with those volunteers. One of the biggest problem is that you have to send a lot of emails out to volunteers to get them to come do what you need them to do. In addition, we're going to allow them to upload documents. So most nonprofits are analog, but that doesn't mean they haven't typed up documents that they can then send prior to those events to make people read or sign if it's legal. So all of those things will be allowed to post to the people that have already signed up to their event on Facebook. So we'll send out the Servify, and all they need is their email if they've been already sent a link by a nonprofit, because that's their verification, and then they'll be onto our system.
And also, I think recently it seems like every time I volunteer or I'm part of something with a lot of volunteers, or just like humans doing things, everyone always wants to start a new WhatsApp group.
So we'll have the ability in this that in-app communication is going to be super important. It's about the core feature is communicating without having to either do written, find your person, or email them, because that's a huge hassle, and something that let's see if I can get to. But Tara Scully is a professor here at GW. She uses Noble Hour, and she has to get over 100. She has 100 students in her class, and they all have to send emails to verify hours. So she gets 100 emails multiplied by how many times people verify hours. So it's like 10,000 emails that should be just in-app where you click it. So that's a simple thing.
So when you first came out with, we're going to do this app, I was like, don't do an app, just optimize on mobile, right, for a website, thinking that people are going to download it to volunteer and then delete it, and that there's not going to be much stickiness. Now, I totally get the push notifications and the communication, and even if they are downloading it to then delete it, the next time they're going to download it to delete it, and hopefully they would just keep it on their phone. I would say, there's probably the type of person that volunteers at one place might volunteer at another place, and if all the volunteer places can require their current regulars to download the apps, that's obviously going to be super important to require them to have their volunteers download this to continue volunteering, or else you won't get the volume as quickly as you might want it. Just like a really small, using the term nonprofit, especially coming from a nonprofit that doesn't need a bunch of volunteers, I'm interested in how nonprofit breaks down, because people use the term nonprofit all the time, but I don't know if you're talking about organization, and I know you're talking about size, but maybe in you don't need to speak to this right now, but just the breakdown of exactly who your target volunteer needing organization is, and not just grouping it as a nonprofit, because it doesn't give me much insight in exactly who your target customer is.
Right. So I'll take that. So there really is no word to describe nonprofits separate from those other ones, but we have defined them. They are 501c3s located in the Metro Washington, D.C. area that have high rates of new volunteers coming to their services.
What about, not for-profits looking for volunteers?
No, currently not at this point.
Not initially.
Yes, no.
But we will expand that if we
I guess
see
that
the
was the
necessary
clarification.
market.
Yeah.
So these are ones that have a low budget and that they have volunteers that are essential to their system.
Sure, got it.
Right, and back to the stickiness idea. So part of our reason for creating a software that's independent of Sign Up Genius is because think of an app like Venmo. You may only pay a person one time, if ever. You may want to delete the app, but it's so convenient that you'll probably keep it on.
Any questions?
Usage for Venmo is
Way higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to get into let's talk about Venmo for a second, which I was thinking about, but thinking about Venmo is very simple, right? Think about everything that people try to build for nonprofits and volunteer management and everything. It's like it's all very heavy. So if you go back to that, you have 5 different things
I
like
get
that.
time is up. Sorry.
Oh, okay, sure.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.